The hills and hollers of the Ozark Mountains can be a mystifying place, hiding who knows what. It is out of these deep, dark woods that the Crescent Hotel looms above the quirky little town of Eureka Springs, Arkansas, as it has for well over a century. The Victorian behemoth, built in 1886, swiftly established itself as a luxurious destination for the wealthy. But today, it is better known for a different kind of resident.
As soon as the sun goes down, it turns night, this place turns into a little bit of a different situation.
Guests and staff at the Crescent often report experiencing things that are unexplainable. The night manager says he sometimes receives calls from rooms with no one in them.
I send my security in. They check, make sure there's no one in there, of course, and then I'll send my bellman up to replace the phone. And then within an hour later, I'll get a call from that same room.
Some spirits at the Crescent have been identified as real people connected to the hotel, most of whom faced tragic ends. In 1914, when the Crescent hosted a girls' conservatory during winter months, the 4-year-old son of the college president became sick and died. Over the years, people have claimed to have witnessed him laughing and playing in the hotel's hallways with a red ball. The most famous spirit at the Crescent is that of a man who continues to cast a dark shadow on the place to this day, Norman Baker, who bought the hotel in 1937.
He seems to be the apparition that is the most unfriendly, you might say, and you do not want to provoke him. We know that much. He has been provoked in the past and it wasn't good.
Baker was charismatic, enterprising, and evil. Once upon a time, he traveled the country as a magician.
Norman Baker was a very popular hypnotist. He calls himself a mesmerist during the time of vaudeville.
Even when this chapter of his life ended, he never ceased to use illusion for his own personal gain. In 1930, having gained a widespread audience through his radio station in Iowa, Baker claimed to have created a cure to cancer in the form of an injected serum that investigators said actually hastened the death of his patients. It wasn't long before the authorities forced him out of Iowa. Then Baker came to Arkansas. He recreated the Crescent as a hospital and again promised a cure to cancer. Soon, he had desperate patients coming from all across the country, and he profited immensely off their suffering.
As a mesmerist, he believed that the mind was very powerful. It is. Your mind can overcome even physical ailments. And so as a cancer hospital, he was telling people the power of positive thinking, and they needed to do these mental exercises to help heal themselves of the cancer. And conveniently for Dr. Baker, if they didn't heal themselves, it's because they weren't doing their mental exercises.
Baker was often seen wearing a white suit and purple tie, his favorite color. To this day, his mark remains on the Crescent. There's purple everywhere. Of his extensive remodeling of the Crescent, one addition stands out from the rest: the morgue. Hidden beneath the hotel where his unsuspecting victims could not discover the fate of their predecessors. Especially sick patients were taken to a secluded wing of the Crescent where others could not hear their suffering.
He boarded up the windows, made it even more soundproof, put steel doors with a lock from the outside, and he designated that as his pain asylum. They could scream, yell, whatever they wanted to do, but that way they didn't disturb anybody else.
The area that was once the pain ward is now the honeymoon suite at the Crescent. And as you'd expect, newlyweds sometimes find they're not alone in there.
And in the honeymoon suite, there's a woman who's sometimes seen standing at the end of the bed. She's wearing a white nightgown, probably from the 30s, we think, and probably is one of those cancer victims because she appears not to have a jaw or a chin. And she doesn't do anything or say anything to hurt anyone. She's just there in the middle of the night. You wake up, she's standing at the end of the bed.
Those who died were discreetly wheeled away to the morgue in the middle of the night by nurses, one of whom appears to now haunt the hotel.
There's a woman that we think worked at the hospital. She wears a nursing uniform and she pushes a gurney down the 3rd floor hallway, and we think that she might be here out of guilt.
Baker was eventually arrested and sent to prison, but many of the poor souls he took advantage of never left. Historians have confirmed at least 42 deaths at the Crescent during his 2-year ownership, but they believe the actual number is much higher because they could only recover records from 1 out of 5 mortuaries open during Baker's time. And before he was arrested, Baker had his assistants burn the hospital's records. It appears that somebody may have tried to hide evidence of Baker's ghoulish push experimental cures as well. In 2019, a landscaper discovered hundreds of bottles and jars buried behind the hotel, as well as what is believed to be Baker's bone saw. Archaeologists from the University of Arkansas investigated and determined that some of the jars contain human tissue. For years, owners and management at the Crescent have discouraged talk of the hotel's dark past and resident specters. Today, however, its owners have embraced its spooky side.
I've been doing ghost tours in about 1997 when Elise and Marty Rennick bought the hotel. They were the ones who said, if there's something going on here that we need to talk about, let's tell the stories. So they had some paranormal investigators come in and they said, indeed, there is paranormal happening here.
The ghost tours have been a main draw for guests from all across America and abroad.
They enjoy the interaction with the paranormal. Our ghosts are not afraid to interact with our guests.
I wanted to come here for my birthday present thing, and I wanted to go on the ghost tour. But this is my first time going on the ghost tour.
A lot of people are drawn back year after year. I know that much. So there's just something about this place.
And it's not just the Crescent. The entire town of Eureka Springs is said to be haunted by restless spirits. Before settlers arrived, the springs here were sacred to Native Americans.
They saw it as a protective area and a spiritual area. So they allowed people to come in and use the springs. They left their weapons outside of that area, but they knew that the springs were healing.
One of the main theories as to why this eclectic little town is so haunted centers around the fact that it was built atop limestone.
It turns out that when water runs over limestone, that action creates an electromagnetic force that is measurable. That's enough energy to be noticed. And so I think that in our area, all of this extra energy lends to spirits to be able to connect with us, move things, be seen. And that's what makes it really special to be here and why we're, I think, so active as a town, not only just a hotel.
And in a hotel that even has a ghost cat, his name is Morris and he's very cute. If you're not already a believer in ghosts, the spooks here may change your mind.
I think these are souls. I think that's what a ghost is. So I believe they still have feelings. I believe they still want to interact. They still want to be seen and noticed and acknowledged.
So remember, the next time you're driving through the Ozark Mountains on a dark and stormy night, you can always check in at the Crescent. You just may never leave.